journalist Seymour Hersh. He's revealed Biden's possible involvement in the attacks on Russia's Nord Stream gas pipelines. Reportedly, the attacks were planned for 9 months since 2021. Let's learn more about the story right now with RT's Marina Kozareva joining us here live in the studio. Just quickly, Marina, it's worth reminding our guests that Seymour Hersh is a legendary journalist. He's known for pushing back on the mainstream narratives. Just quickly, one example is in general, he has huge contempt for the American media. But when it comes to the official U.S. government narrative on the death of Osama bin Laden, Seymour Hersh called it one big lie. He's always pushing back on what are the mainstream narratives. Now we have this intriguing and disturbing revelation coming from Seymour Hersh about the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines. What do you know?
Yes, absolutely. And it seems he has a lot of trust, which is why we are seeing that he says that it's a source that he's quoting with direct knowledge of the operational planning. And he goes into this very, very detailed explanation of how it was done, for how the U.S. blew up the pipelines. And how it happened is, according to Seymour Hersh, is that they used the U.S.'s Navy's Diving and Salvage Center. And the reason why they did that is because this way they didn't have to be held accountable to because they weren't America's Special Forces Command. They weren't accountable to the Senate, and they didn't have to report to Congress. So they could do it hushed up. And they had a lot of secret meetings that went back and forth, according to Seymour Hersh. And he is quoting a source with direct knowledge of the operation that went on there. He's not revealing any names or who the source is. But the amount of detail that is in this clearly shows that this person knows what he's talking about. So how did they do this? This is something, actually, Rory, that we were reporting about, and we were told that this is disinformation. So when we were saying that in June, the U.S. was boasting, back in June, before this all happened, the U.S. was boasting itself on a website saying how it had underwater divers performing exercises, testing their new drones. This is actually when they were planting the mines that then they went on to blow up the Nord Stream pipelines. So this was an operation called Baltops, and because it was from the area that this happened. So the way it was is that there was a lot of back and forth how to blow up the Nord Stream pipelines. And apparently top U.S. officials were discussing this. They were saying, how do we do this? Because they wanted to make sure that Russian dominance, when it comes to Germany and its energy sector, that was taken away. So that is the reason why they wanted Nord Stream blown up. They wanted it destroyed. They saw it as a way that Vladimir Putin's coffers were getting more and more money because Gazprom was making money. They were saying that because it's a state company, then the profits went on to Vladimir Putin. They wanted to make sure that Russia was getting no profit from any energy sales. They wanted to make sure that Germany doesn't feel that it can stand up to Russia if it wanted to because it's getting gas. So they wanted to eliminate all of that. But how do they do it? They can't just go out there and blow up the pipelines.
How did they do it, Marie?
They used this U.S.'s Navy's Diving and Salvage Center because it's the Navy. It's not part of the armed forces, so they don't have to report to Congress. So they can do it all hushed up. So according to them, last June, these Navy divers operating under the cover of a widely publicized midsummer NATO exercise, which is what we were reporting about when the Nord Stream terrorist attack, I should say, happened. We were saying that, hold on a second, we found this article where they're openly discussing how they had underwater divers in that same area where the explosions happened. And apparently now we know, according to Seymour Hersh and his source that revealed detailed explanation of how this was prepared and planned, this is exactly what they used, that so-called NATO exercise. That was used to plant. And the reason why they used that salvage center and not their undercover agents was because they didn't have to talk to Congress about it. They didn't have to get their approval.